Welcome to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell, where we will explore the challenges of businesses moving from a face-to-face training mode to an online training environment. Many businesses have been caught off guard by the COVID-19 pandemic, but the situation is proving to be a catalyst for new possibilities and opportunities for the training industry. Let me and my guests help you make the most of these opportunities and to navigate the transition so that you and your organisation come out stronger and more resilient than when you went in. Education is the answer and you are the leader. Hi, and welcome to the Education in Isolation podcast. In today's interview, we're interviewing David Shirley, who has come from a background of working with flexible work environments. And so this is going to be a massive change of what's happened since COVID-19. So I'm really interested to hear, more about you, David, and about your business. And in particular, how has this impacted on your clients as well? So let's get started. Who are you and what do you do?
Thanks, Angela. It's good to be here. David Shirley, I'm a partner at an organisation called Flex We Are, and we embed and normalise flexible work arrangements with organisations. So that could be everything from their policies right through to doing the training. And this is probably the part that you're most interested in, is how do we do the training when we work with, whether it's the C-suite or a team, to do team protocols with them, or the management level, or the actual employees. So there's a lot of upskill to be part of this training. And we've done most of it. Well, I'm going to say 100% of it prior to COVID-19. We did 100% of it face-to-face on site at the client. So this has been a huge change for us as well.
And coming from that environment where it was 100% face-to-face, just explain how that worked in the past. So what
Sure.
you were explaining that you had an office in the city, but you hardly were there.
Yep. So we do have an office in the city. We still have an address in the city now. Wouldn't even call it an office anymore. We haven't been there for months and months and months. But we never did, we did our work there. We did our emails and we had our phone calls. But all of the training delivery or all of the engagement with the clients was on site at the client site. So to change from that to having an address as an office and working from home and delivering 100% online, it's been a huge shift from the way we used to do it.
Yep. Okay, so what do you believe would have been your biggest challenge through this transition on you, your business and your clients?
Yeah, look, that's a great question, Angela. And I think from if we look at it from the perspective of what happened at Flex We Are, we're a small company, so we're quite nimble in how we were able to do that. We already had all the portable technology to do it with laptops and phones. But from our client perspective, there was a huge shift in the way that worked because in the corporate world, for example, we have one client that has desktop machines and all of a sudden they were at home. And the real challenge with that particular client was that they were trying to do these online video calls, audio calls, but doing it through sort of a technology that wasn't working very well, Citrix-based technology. So they struggled a lot until we worked a way around how we were going to do that. So the bigger change really, besides the fact that we were going from face-to-face to online, the bigger challenge was bringing the clients along to recognise that that we could do this and this would be effective. A big hurdle for us was changing how we were delivering it. Our sessions could have been up to 3 and 4 hours when we were doing face-to-face. And I think as humans, when we sit down face-to-face, it's not a huge energy consumption to have a meeting or a training like that. But you take that into the online world and 3 to 4 hours is, in my mind, unacceptable. It's just you can't keep your energy up. People start to fade off. It doesn't work. So a challenge for us was to go back and look at what we were delivering. And from a time perspective, how do we change what we're going to do and cut it up and make it certainly more engaging? That we've all sat on those Zoom calls or the Teams calls or a Skype call for an hour and just been bored out of our minds. So it's been a we had to go and rejig and look at what we were delivering.
So what were you delivering? How was the training that you were delivering?
So it was face-to-face in a room with anywhere from, 12 to 40 people. And I think back to the technologies, if that's the word we'd use. We had whiteboards and PowerPoint slides, flip charts. They were sort of the technologies of the room. Where today, doing this in this online world, the technologies we use are quite vast. We can implement a lot of other things besides this sort of talking head with a PowerPoint slide, which in my mind is not going to cut it. And the fact that I think we're going to be in this mode for a long time, I know we'll be going back to the office, but the idea of traveling to Hong Kong to do a presentation, it's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen for a long time, or unless you've got 15 presentations, you're not going to Hong Kong to just do one. So I think this is here to stay, this new skill we all have to develop of how to deliver online and make it engaging, and work out what, depending on what your content is, how long can you keep your students engaged for the way you're delivering it.
And so what did you do? What did you implement into your training that was different from when you're face-to-face?
Yeah, so we looked at the activities that we did in the classroom and said, how will they translate into an online world? We certainly, as I mentioned before, we shortened the time that we were, let's call it face-to-face in this online world. Rather than having the 3 and 4 hour sessions, we brought them down to, I think the maximum we'll do now is about an hour and a half. And knowing that last half an hour is much more interactive, where I think if it's more lecture based, I think a lot of people tap out around the hour mark. So we've looked at where in that hour and a half will we use which activities. So all of those functions online that we've got, from using polls or chat windows, or if you were to be really rudimentary, simply getting people to hold up post-it notes with an answer. I want you to force rank these things 1, 2, 3, hold it up so everybody else can see. These are the things that keep people engaged. If you're a talking head for an hour, people, it's really easy to hold your phone up and play below the camera and they can't see what you're doing. So many more little tricks of the trade to get people involved. I mean, we've brought external applications into the training, like Mentimeter, so that people can vote or respond to questionnaires and see the results as it comes through live. There's a lot of different ways that we're starting to implement this engagement way of keeping them in an online facility.
And how has it impacted on with the clients? Has it the way you're delivering now, have they adjusted to that? And also, where do you see this going in the future as well?
Yeah, so there's certainly there's 2 parts to it with this. That with the client, we used to have to, it was a big time thing to try and get, as particularly if we were doing a C-suite delivery and you had to get all of the, the CXOs into a room together. That's a logistical challenge, let's call it. It's a logistical challenge to do that. So one of the things that online has done for us is made those things really easy, because we don't have to fly people around. If we're working with an organisation that is equally split between Sydney and Melbourne, and we need to get that leadership team together, we have to wait for them to do one of their on-sites, and would be sort of tacked on to one of the things they had in their schedule. Now we can say, we've got an upskilling in the way we've delivered this. Can we jump online? It'll be an hour upskilling. The availability of people is much broader. Now, the other thing we found is, of course, we're not travelling as much. So if we are working with an organisation that's got offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, you burn time travelling and you get tired from travelling. There's a fatigue that comes with it. So it seems like we've transferred our travel fatigue to this online fatigue. But as far as scheduling goes, that makes it much easier. Into the future, to answer that part of the question, I see it as a positive. When we have change comes opportunity. And I think the opportunity for us as an organisation has been that, when we were doing 100% face-to-face, that puts a physical limitation on who we could deliver to. Now we're doing this online. The world's your oyster. You just pick the time zones, really the limitation. It sort of rules out doing global things at the same time. We've certainly had organisations that haven't thought too far in the future about that and said, well, why don't we get everyone? We get New York, London and Sydney online. And it's like, if you looked at the time zones for that, just doesn't quite work. But yeah, our horizon of who's available as a client is certainly broadened now, because we used to, okay, we're going to come down to Melbourne in July and this second week, can we be available? Now we don't have to worry about that. Our barriers have disappeared as far as that goes. So geographically, our clients can be everywhere, and we've now got new clients from California. Being that I have a daughter at college in California, I'm trying to embrace those engagements.
So you can wrangle a trip over there?
At some stage, we'll have to go visit, of course. We'll have to go visit, yeah. So I think the future, is bright with this from a training perspective, that this really lets our reach grow far and wide. And from that scheduling perspective, it's much easier to find some time without having to burn travel and trying to organise these people who are in distributed geographies. We can bring them together in the same room. Quite easily.
So what has been some of the challenges and perhaps pushback from your clients with this transition?
Well, so, the easiest way to answer that question has been the adoption of technology. I know very early on when Zoom was, doubling and tripling, I think the numbers I recently saw was that, they had 10 million average daily users, and now they've got 200 million. There were companies that said, well, when Zoom early on had those privacy and security issues, let's call it, before they did some hard work on that. We had clients that said, we won't do Zoom. We can't do that. So I had to work out what the different technology was. And then I suppose the other challenge that comes up often, are we going to use my technology to do this, or are we going to use your technology to do this? And if we're using your technology, what is it? And am I familiar with driving that? And of all of these things I like to bring into making it a more engaging session online, can I use all those with your technology? So if we look at Microsoft, the most common would be Zoom. That seems to have won this battle at the moment, followed pretty closely by Teams, and then we're seeing WebEx, and there's a whole host. So I just put a post out quite recently asking, as a result of COVID, what are we all using more of? And there is a plethora of different products out there that companies are using. I've used most of them now because our clients require us to use theirs most of the time. So that becomes a challenge at our end of, it hasn't happened yet. We've got one client we're working with that we haven't run a session, but they use a product called Blue Jeans that I'd never even heard of it. So for me to run a session that's going to be engaging and accurate for them, I need to know what are the capabilities of that platform and which little tricks and tools can I plug into that to make the session much more worthwhile. So that's been the big challenge, I think. It's been IT departments having to open up the access to this and saying, wow, we didn't used to let people even take our technology home from a privacy or a security aspect, and now we're asking them to work from home full time. That was the quick hurdle. I think we're all over that hurdle now. And so as I think we look to the future, it's, what's the best tool for the job now in rolling out this?
So we're now in transition, so recovery, they call it, and returning back to our offices. But then you've also noticed that there's a big shift here with this return.
Yeah.
And what was that?
Yeah. So the shift I'm seeing is as we transition, I know a lot of people have been saying we're transitioning back to work, and I hope that we've all been working and we're simply transitioning back to the office. We've got clients at each end of the spectrum. We've got some that are saying we're never going back to the office and we're going to close our office down. And we've got others that are saying we need people back urgently and quickly because of the type of businesses that they're running. I think what will forever change for us here in how we deliver this And we sort of got, I can remember last year we got caught out a few times where we were doing some work with New South Wales government or one of their departments, and we turned up to deliver a session as we'd done previously. And we walked in and that, there was the 14 or 20 people in the room. And they said, and we've got 30 people on the phone. And we're like, okay, so our intention today was to use a slide deck, to use flip charts, to use a whiteboard. And here we've got people online on the phone, not online,
can't
on a
see
phone call.
Yeah.
Can't see any of it. They can't read our body language. They can't see what we're drawing. They can't see the slide deck we've prepared. Now, if we think of what this is going to look like in the future, I can't imagine any meeting, let alone a training session, that will happen with people in the room and not also with people online. There's going to be this big mix of how we do it. And so I think that's probably the new challenge coming today is how do you equally engage someone online at the same time as we have people in the room?
Yeah. And so have you identified that as a hurdle? Are you still in the process of working out? Because I suppose it's not until we are actually facing it.
I definitely still consider that a hurdle, and not just for me and my team of how we're going to work out how to do it, but also the hurdle for the general business population of how they're going to get used to this and transition to this new way of doing it, and making sure we're acknowledging those people that are on the line. Something that hit me during this, I was watching one of those Netflix series, and it was the Formula One Drive to Survive. And although I've been a fan of cars and racing in the past, I really haven't watched any of that recently. So it was a great way to catch up and get re-engaged. But it was much more about the drama of it. But there was one particular scene that surprised me and really made me think about what will this look like from the corporate world of people in the room and people online is when the drivers and the technicians and the mechanics and the pit board people got together after a test session or a qualifying session. They all sat in the same room with computers and they all had headphones on, and that's how they communicated. It wasn't that, okay, we're all in a room, we can drop the headphones. It was very much let's work and prepare as if it's going to be in the race. And it made me think, well, what happens when we have 5 people in the room and 5 people online? What will we do? Will we have the people in the room also use the same tools that those that are online are going to use? Because it's not fair when we have those people in the room and they can look at each other and give that little sign and nod, and people online have no idea that someone's nodded to that. We've got to make sure that full communication spectrum is available to everyone, and not just within the room, but those in the room to the people online. And I see that as being the hurdle that the general corporate population has got to learn how to do this.
Yeah, and it's not just corporate, because we've actually seen it with the transition for the registered training organisations as well, because particularly in this transition period where there were students who were quite happy to come back, and then there are others who might have had low immune systems or were just concerned about that we're not over all of this yet. So they wanted to stay at home. So we've had a number of our clients having to adjust to that. And at the moment, it's just one camera in the corner that's just, directed at the front. But I can see exactly what you mean. And in my head, I'm thinking, are we going to need like a camera in front of each person so that they can see each other interacting as well? Yep. From what you were saying just then, I can totally understand. Yeah, you lose all that engagement when they're not able to interact with each other. So it'd be interesting to see what technology comes out of this moving into the future, because I know there's like cameras you can get that will sit on a desk and can rotate around.
Those 360s and can look around the room. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a huge change to that. And look, we've put together a product that really came from a client demand rather than us sitting in a room and thinking how to do this. And we call it Win the Virtual Room. So they're real meetings. Everyone calls these virtual meetings. It's not a virtual meeting. It's a very real meeting, because, business has got to continue and decisions will be made. So a very real meeting in a virtual room. And so when we come to all the different ways that we can be engaging or be different, I just think if we here's my webcam and here's my headphones, hopefully, rather than talking at the computer, we want to be able to sound as good as we can. We want to look as good as we can. We want our presentation to be as engaging as possible. And I've found this gap between, and I don't think these worlds, in my world of where our clients are all corporates, these two worlds that I don't think ever would have met previously. But if we look at what goes on in the online gaming community or YouTubers and the way they put together their live presentations and the tools that they're using, and then what corporate uses, there were always two worlds I thought would never collide. But here we are with tools like Ecamm Live or OBS, where there are these software studios where we can cameras and different types of microphones, and you go look at what these virtual racing guys are doing when they go online. They've got multiple cameras. They've got a camera pointed at their feet so you can see what's happening with their pedals when they're driving, another camera on burning, and then part of the screen is the actual game they're racing in. They've got the headphones on and they're talking. And some of them even another camera over their hand that's shifting the gears so you can really see what they're doing. Now, that is so much more interesting than I can see the game you're playing and I can hear you talking about it. But now I can see you changing gears. I can see where you're braking for that corner. That world, bringing it into the corporate world is, I want to have more things. I want to be able to see you draw on the whiteboard. That was something we had in the classroom or we had in the real room, that now in the virtual room, we have to find a way that we have that communication come across. We know that there's visual learners and audio learners and let me do it learners. We need to cater to all of them when we make it a much richer delivery.
So I suppose it's still watch this space, because I think there's still going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be developed out of all of this.
Yep.
And hearing you talk about how your market has really opened up. You're not restricted to just Australia. You've got clients overseas, and then you were doing that before, but now they were wanting to bring all of these different countries, people from different countries, into one training room, which they would not have been able to do before.
Yep, never would have thought about it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I think that on the flip side is going to be very good for team members, for companies in different countries where they're going to get to know each other. And then you've got the big side of cultural differences and adjusting to those cultural differences in those different countries coming into the same training room as well.
Absolutely. And that's where we need to have that full range of communication. If you think back to, imagine a conference phone call where you were disseminating some piece of information. And on the call, we had the full range of someone with a Scottish accent and someone with a Japanese accent and a Korean accent and a West Australian country accent, and have them all trying to understand each other. It's not enough. So now we need to bring in, the non-verbal communication. We need to be able to see people and watch their eyebrows go up and down. There's a huge piece of communication that's missed when it's just that audio or just an email. Or so we do want to make sure that's all brought in. Angela, let me just go back and tell you one of the other hurdles, which I think, and this is from my client base, that I think we're going to see, is these technologies that we're asking our clients, our corporate clients and organisations to use. There's going to be a huge jump from what the IT departments are currently allowing on these machines. There are many of our clients, their USBs are locked. They can't put in a drive because they're worried about corporate secrets disappearing from the laptop. Well, I don't want to plug a drive in to steal the corporate secrets. I want to plug a really good camera in or a much better microphone in. And so there's going to be a bit of ebb and flow and challenge between that person in marketing or sales that wants to, really put their best foot forward in how they're delivering, versus the IT department saying, we're a little worried about our privacy and our secrecy of locking down our equipment. So that's the challenge. That's certainly one of the big challenges that I think we're going to see coming in this world. I can even tell you what's happening now. And at the moment, with this enforced reactive lockdown, I think a lot of IT departments were told, you need to relax on your policies and let us do our work, open up the things that we need to get that work done. So, yeah, challenges ahead, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I know there's been quite a few changes with Office 365 as well, and they've been changing their security settings and things like that. So I think there's a lot of technology trying to catch up with, this trend where people are working from home now. So, so I think it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this and how we're actually going to do this. So out of all of this, what has been your biggest achievement?
Well, it's huge. We've gone from 100% in the classroom or in the room, the real room, to 100%, and transitioning all of our offerings and service offerings and products to go that way, and bringing your clients along on that ride. That's got to be the dance with this, that we've got to do this slowly and you've got to bring them with you. It can't just be, well, we don't do that anymore and this is what we do, and they can't see the connection between those two worlds. So, yeah, definitely very proud of how we've transitioned to a 100% online.
So with the changes that you've made, what do you see will stay?
Definitely this online will stay. I think take it a step further, and because people are now used to seeing David Shirley on a screen, whether it was live, they won't be too unhappy to see a recorded David Shirley on their screen either. So I think the thickening up of offerings that will occur, I think there's a lot of training organisations out there that, I deliver face-to-face and that's what I do. I think those days are gone. I think you'll deliver face-to-face sometimes, you'll deliver online a lot, and we'll have some recorded information. So I look at that as a really positive way of thickening out offerings to clients so that live's not all the ways the best way. And as we know, a lot of these things we're able to record the actual session, or we can also stream it to Facebook, or we can stream it to YouTube, and people can watch these things later. So this sort of richness in where, when, and how I can access this information is going to continue. So I think it's going to be really important in the future that training organisations, upskill themselves and making sure their lighting's good, making sure their audio's good. We all know there's nothing worse than knowing that there's great content being delivered and I can't hear them. That's certainly the first thing where we fall down. If I can't hear you, I'll fade away quickly. So we need good microphones. We want to sound good. Of course, we need stable internet for all that to work. And then, how you can keep going. Good cameras, good lighting, good backdrops. If I think about all the different ways, I tried to do this analogy. If you think about all the different ways you socially interact with people, so some people you will go for a walk on the beach with, some people you'll have breakfast at a cafe, some people you go out to dinner, go to lunch, you'll go to a pub, have a drink, you might go to a movie with. If we bring that into our working world and think, how will I meet with that person and what will that experience look like for them? If our only offering is, here's my webcam and I don't even have a headset, I'm just sort of talking to the computer and hope that audio is good enough. If that's your only offering to all of the different interactions we have with business people, think of the difference between I'm catching up with an old colleague or I'm having an internal meeting versus I'm pitching for some new business. The background in my room becomes important. Do I have a virtual background or do I curate a bookshelf and the awards that our company's won? That would be really important if we're pitching for new business, not so important for a team meeting. So I think if we go back to what the richness of available options that we had to meet with people prior to COVID, and now a lot of this is in the online world, well, let's bring that richness of offerings to the online world, and including not live, including recorded, especially if we've now broadened our addressable market to international, consider, and live's not always a solution there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a combination of, as you said, recorded content with your online, live content. And one thing that you brought up there was about the amount of content you can now provide, which, because you're able to do the recorded content, you can come up with other ways of delivery and other content that you could then use where in the past you would have been limited by time because you're delivering it face to face. And that's something that I highly recommend for all training organisations, is have the recorded content, particularly the things that you're delivering the same over and over and over again, where it might be the theory behind something, or it might be a structure that you're going through. And then when you're with the clients, there's more of that, okay, getting them engaged and actually getting the content to sync and make sense with what how they apply it within their workplace, or how they would use that skill or knowledge. So it's making those adjustments in the live. But I think it's definitely the way forward with training. So yeah, very, very good insights there, and great achievements as well to be able to fully transition across to. And did you lose any clients?
Look, there's some that slowed down. I don't think we had our clients slow down from that we transitioned from in face-to-face to online. I think there's probably other reasons that clients slowed down, particularly up until the end of the financial year. I more look at the other way and say our market expanded. We're able to address that addressable market became bigger.
And I suppose it's also taking advantage of that to be able to expand out and identifying those opportunities. So what were the opportunities that you identified throughout this process that you're looking at forward planning, so 6 to 12 months time? What is it that you're going to change, will you go back?
Look, we're all human, and I think we love the face-to-face. I think a lot of us have missed that. I'm an extrovert in that respect, and so I get a lot of my energy from being around people. So I've certainly missed that, and we'll look forward to that face-to-face engagement again. I think there's no better cut-through of communication than being face-to-face and getting all the cues in communication. So from a sales and business pitching environment, that's what I'm really looking forward to face-to-face. From a delivery perspective, and having that broader environment or sales opportunity, I'm loving that we've got this online. So I'm definitely hoping for a bit of both. And if I think, I know you said 6 to 12 months, but if I think of 6 to 12 years with this, and my children are getting older, I've got my last one doing the HSC, so just finishing school now, and I think, well, where might I live if I'm face to face with my clients? Then that's a very short leash. If more of my work is online and recorded, well, I could live anywhere from Paris, New York, Byron Bay, and deliver away wherever I am. So I quite love that idea of what flexibility brings to this, and do the right pieces of work at the right time with the right client, with whatever they're doing. So to me, this is just another tool that's in our toolbox, and our clients have come to know that this is how it's going to be. I'm not seeing it changing. I really don't. I think the business travel, and we've got corporate clients. That's our target market. The idea of someone jumping on a plane for a meeting in Hong Kong is long gone. So how are we going to have those meetings and successful meetings in that online world where there are some people in the room here, there are some people online? I think that's what that future lies for me. So I'm quite excited about it. And if we've got those knobs that we can twist and turn of how much face-to-face and how much online, I think we can end up with a much better offering rather than it's all one or the other.
So When you think about, flexible workplaces and the fact that we're now had to adjust with COVID-19 and working from home, what do you see? Do you think, like for me, and listening to you, it's like we've finally found that work-life balance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. When we talk about that, we work with organisations to create that future-ready workforce. We mustn't forget that there is a future-ready workplace, and what are they going to look like? Whenever we work with organisations about work arrangements, the CFO gets quite excited because they start looking at how they can shrink their footprint and save some money on their leases or on their properties. But then we've had COVID that sort of said, no, we actually need to expand that now because we need this physical distancing in the office. So there's those two competing ideas at the moment. I think what also will change will be the way in which we use our offices, that we will be much more likely to have these different spaces to do the different pieces of work. I now envisage studios in the office where there is great lighting and great microphones and great cameras, with a beautiful background that the sales guy can go and sit in that room that's nice and quiet and there's no dogs barking or children crying or, this is a big deal. I'm going to get this deal over the line. I need this best foot forward. So I can see organisations putting those sort of rooms in, and you walk in with your laptop, you plug it all in and pitch away.
Yeah. And then, there is so many opportunities with that. And that's somewhere where we were looking at going, was that sort of studio set up as well within the office space. I was already looking at how we could deliver more and more training online. But yeah, it's just going to have a massive impact with a lot of workplaces. And for me personally, I know their work-life balance, there certainly is a lot more. I'm not travelling around like I used to. I was travelling interstate quite regularly as well. So, and we've canned all of that for the rest of this year, and it's all worked really well. What's been the best part is everyone has adjusted to this as well. Yeah, whereas they pushed back before.
I will say, Angela, this has been we've had to adjust because we were forced to. I think the big change for us and the work we're doing when we talk about flexible work arrangements is that how will it work when it's a choice, whether it's a choice to work from home rather than I have to work from home. We've always said there's 5 stakeholders this has got to work for. It's got to work for the individual. It's got to work for their manager. It's got to work for their team. It's got to work for the organisation. And then the 5th one everyone forgets is it's got to work for the customer in how we put these flexible work arrangements together. But really, we've got a couple more now. Now it's got to work for the family. Our company seconded our home space to be part of the office. So we do have to sit down, and I know I've certainly did this during the real thick of work from home, and we'd have a chat at dinner the night before. What's everyone got on tomorrow? Well, I've got a meeting at 10. I need it to be really quiet. Okay, well, David, you're in the basement, and Saskia, you've got to do a study, and you're online with the professor talking about when do you need the quiet time. The basement was terrible for phone calls, so that could be done in the bedroom. So all of a sudden we're sort of working in this flexible office space that's called our home, and so now we have to include family or whoever it is that we work with, and that's just from where's the best place and time to do this work. Imagine a client where they've got these new graduates in their 20s that have come out and they're working for a bank, and this guy's online talking about this they're going to do, to then find out that his housemate works for a competing company and maybe could hear all of that. So we do have to be concerned about where, when and how, and all the different people that are involved in helping us decide where, when and how is the best time to do which piece of work.
So the training you deliver, tell me a bit more about that. What is it that you're teaching?
So this was all flexible work arrangements and how to get the best out of our employee base. And if you picture, which I think is one end of the spectrum, is David, come to work, welcome to our organisation. here's your desk, and you can do your job from 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, 5 days a week at that desk. It's like that, these graduates that are coming out are going to think, am I in trouble? Different way of learning. And if you think of all the different chunks there are in your role and when is the best place to do that, that's what we're working with organisations to help them work out. And then how to come up with those team protocols that support out of your employees at the right time. The simple example, so I do business development and I deliver material and I develop material. So if I look at Tuesday morning and Tuesday evening and say, well, which is the best use of that time? Do sales development on a Tuesday evening is a really poor use of my time because people aren't going to want to talk to you. And developing course material on a Tuesday morning where it's the best time to be doing those sales development calls, that's what we're trying to have people do. And then it's, well, where is the best place? Is it in the office, in a collaborative zone? Do you need to do that piece of work in a very quiet place? What does that look like? So that's the other end of 9 to 5 at one desk is, will you tell me where's the best place for you to do that piece of work? You've got to write a report or mark up a report. Well, clearly you need a quiet place to do that. You're doing some collaboration, putting some budgets together. Well, you need a meeting room with other people to do that. Is it particularly private that what you're doing? Okay, well, we need a meeting room that we can close the blinds. All of these different ways. And if we can get that right, productivity goes up, health and wellness improves, operating costs go down, our employees are happier. I talked about those 5 stakeholders before, and then the 6th one, which is really family. And then I think of the 2 others that bonus from us getting this right. And that's the environment and society. And you mentioned it earlier, how much time we used to spend on public transport or commuting to work, and that time's being given back to us. Well, it's not just the time that's being given back to us. We've also the environment. I know there's pictures around the world where they've taken pictures of cities that don't have the pollution. So our carbon footprints have got better as a result of this. So if we can think of all of those elements and stakeholders, including the environment as a stakeholder, and say when is the best time and place to do these pieces of work that makes sense for me as a human, and that's what we're driving towards.
So one thing that hearing all of that I really envisage is that your training now would have changed, the content that you're delivering. Has there been adjustments that you need to make now to the training that you're delivering to these corporates?
Yep, certainly has. So the biggest piece was, that manager that I don't want to call them old and crusty because I'm getting towards being old and crusty, but that manager that said, I've done my job for 30 years and I didn't need to ever work from home, and why are these graduates asking for all this and won't work for the role types in my team. Well, all of a sudden with this enforced reactive work from home, everyone's found out, oh wow, my team didn't fall apart, and actually some of them are more productive and they're not burned out from all the travel time sitting in peak hour. I know I read an article somewhere saying, is work from home going to kill our society? And mention things like, the barista and chatting to the barista. It's like, well, everyone's still getting a coffee. They're just getting it from their local barista. And what about public transport, all that interaction on public transport? And I thought, well, that all on public transport, you get on a bus or a train, everyone's got their face and their phone, so there's not a lot of interaction going on there. So yes, I definitely had to change the way we put our material together because people are at home and the environment changed a lot. So rather than it being, okay, everyone's in the office, try and find a piece that makes the most sense. So if an employee said, David, I want to work from home on Wednesday, and we say, well, what are you going to do? The dialogue was, well, you tell me what you're going to do. Have a think about what makes them home. Well, it's completely changed. Everyone's at home now. So now it's like, well, when's the best time for you to have that team meeting, and what platform should we have it on? Or this meeting's with a brand new client. What are we going to do? How are we going to arrange that? So being that, and now we're in that transition phase back to the office. So again, it's changing again. What does transition look like? And sadly, as we know in Victoria, we've had the numbers bump up a bit recently. If and when it happens that this spikes, what does the retreat look like? Because we've got to have business continuity. The business world will continue to go on, and we need to make sure that the tools we're putting in place and the way we work with each other continue. And as that changes, Angela, our material changes of what we're delivering.
I
It'll be a constant change.
Yeah, I see also, with registered training organisations, the content's going to change and the way we're delivering it. The training packages will change because there's going to be a lot of changes with so many industries. Like I know one of the big areas that or qualifications, training packages is business. The business training package, they now need to incorporate more of working remotely and these flexible work environments as well, and how to adjust that, and how do you lead and manage a remote work environment. So
Yeah.
I could see that being massive. And the other big thing is where we've worked out that this works, so we can work from home, but also the opportunities for me, I know I've identified this, I'm not restricted now with who I hire from where. Yeah, whereas we were very much, and particularly where Vivacity was originally, we were up in Newcastle, so we didn't have anybody who wanted to go to Newcastle, or not very many. You had to try and resource from within Newcastle, which was very difficult. So I'm now in Sydney, but now we can see, like, I could hire someone from Melbourne or Brisbane or, country, someone who's living in the country who doesn't want to move to a big city. So, and I think there's so much talent out there as well that we can now tap into because we're not restricted to a city.
Wouldn't it be nice if this, of what we've learnt this year, I mean, I hope we have some big learnings from all of these, but wouldn't it be nice if one of the big learnings is we can do our job from many different places? So that idea of all of this talent coming to the big cities and our country areas being depleted of that talent, we can start moving back out and all sharing that fresh air.
Yeah. And you even think about, Tasmania, where they lose a lot of their youth who move away from Tasmania because of lack of employment and job opportunities, whereas now they can stay in Tasmania. Yeah.
We'll have a lot of these country towns be much more sustainable. You mentioned something about your RTOs and the content they're putting together. The advice I could throw out there is with that content, it is going to change, and be ready to change it quickly. Prolific over perfect. Don't sit there and nut out the perfect amount of content. It's going to have to come out quickly. Things are changing. And I said it earlier, with change comes opportunity, and there's markets begging for all different types of engagement here.
And the most important part is actually ask the industry, ask the employers, ask the community, what do they want? How do they need the training to be adjusted? What is it? What is the skills that they need their team, when they're hiring a new team member? What are the skills that they need? Because those skills are going to change now. And how we actually operate. So industry consultation is a big area that I right now is really important, that we are actually asking industry, well, what do you need? How do we need to adjust our training to meet your needs?
To meet that, yeah. With a little healthy dose of we've thought about delivering it this way that you may not have thought of. I love that, the line of, if you asked Henry Ford, ask his customers, what do they need? And they all would have said, well, we need faster horses. So there, if we just rely on asking our clients, we do need that industry consultation, as you said, but if we have good ideas in the way to deliver this, let's take it to them and suggest the way.
Yeah, and here's some ideas that we've thought of, and these are some of the challenges that we've identified that we can solve. What do you think? and getting feedback from them on that. Yeah, that very important point, that one, because I think sometimes we go out and do our industry consultation and just ask them, and more often than not, they have no idea. They're just as stuck.
Yeah.
So they need those ideas on how to move forward. Okay, last question. How do you keep motivated every day?
Well, there's been a huge change. I mean, look, if you come really right back to it, keeping motivated is you wake up and see your family every day that needs to be provided for. So that's always a pretty good motivation. But rather than what motivates me, it's what more excites me at the moment. And it's the way this is changing. And I've had a huge, very long background in technology and then teaching technology. So I've found myself in a sweet spot again where technology's become really important. If we didn't have the tech we've currently got at our fingertips, this work from home would have doomed. It would have been such a huge failure. So I congratulate all those technologists in the world that's provided us with these tools, the hardware and the software to enable all of this. So I'm excited by what's coming and the way we can change this. And make it more accessible to people. I think of the RTOs you're talking to out there that are delivering all this great content. It's all of a sudden available online to a great range of people that couldn't have turned up physically to learn how to do things. So I think when we hear Morrison talking about this huge skills shortage we've got to address, well, this is we are the people that are addressing that. And if we can do it leveraging technology to get a greater attendance of this training, then happy days. This is a good result.
I have a very similar sort of outlook where I think the future is bright. I think COVID has forced us to make changes to the way we deliver training, the way we work. And I think it's just fast-tracked what we needed to do, how we needed to move in our training.
Great example there, Angela. Great example.
Yes, I know, working from home with dogs in the background.
I love it.
Thank you very much for attending our podcast today. It's been awesome having a chat to you, and we could certainly take a lot more. I could definitely chat a lot longer about another time.
Thank you very much for having me. I've thoroughly enjoyed having time to have a chat.
Awesome. Till next time. You've been listening to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell. If you'd like access to the show notes and other resources to find subscription options, you can find us at educationinisolation.com. The Education in Isolation podcast is proud to be part of the Experts on Air podcast network.